All right, and so before we finish up, we want to just touch up a couple of things, and we want to talk about a little bit the masks. And the masks were created by Ben Johnson and Ego Jones. Well, the physical aspect, but now when I start to get
I
stuck
got
on
you.
it.
I got you. It's
But so they were basically they were
big
only performed in royal spaces
in the initial early
in
aspects
the initial
of
aspect
the
before it
creation.
went to the city local part. What it was is it would. So during the Jacobean time, the theaters were a lot more. How can I say this?
Interactive.
Interactive. The audience made themselves presented, like they made themselves felt, and so they would tell you if they liked it. Like you could tell literally right there, they would tell you in your face, or if they just not like if they didn't like it. If they did, they'd be cheering and all
It's
that.
almost like the fourth wall, like the whole aspect of like what we think of as modern theater, like the whole like the reason why from the audience perspective we stay quiet is because it adds to the believability. If we're up
Exactly,
there and
but
we're mocking the thing, it's not. But yeah,
but
this
in the
time
Jacobean, it's
yeah.
actually like part of it, like
and
there.
encourage, yeah, and it's a big
Exactly.
part of it.
Mhm.
Which is also kind of like it shows the kind of performances they have, and there's a lot of action that happens in these plays. So you could see like being an audience member, if you're interactive in these things, what would you be doing? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like imagine you're seeing, we're seeing these plays on cheating women and everything, and then they're either getting their due or they're getting away, and you can see the reaction that the audience would have, like, "Oh, harlot!"
But all right. But let's before we get sidetracked again. So because this was for royal status and any anybody with money at that time with class in that high class, it was there were some actors who were part of the high class, and most of the time it was to protect, I guess, their identity. They don't want to, be seen. And I could be wrong, to be honest. That just that's
What
what
we found.
what's kind of what I thought.
Excuse me.
No problem. You're excused.
One thing that I can say about Mask is like one thing we big know about it today is like it's a masquerade, and there are a lot. There's a lot.
Best way to picture about it, to be honest, a masquerade. Or
there's like masks actually take place in like in certain movies. There's actually certain movies that I've seen where like where I'm watching these ballroom scenes and I'm like, what the hell are these things doing in the background? And I see these things and I was like, well, I guess they're just there. And then no, they actually have a name. They're the masks, and it's like I'm talking about things like if you've ever seen the movie. I think you see me, but we were talking about it before this. We were talking about the Van Helsing that was made with Hugh Jackman. Yeah. And so, it was made in there. They had the ballroom scene.
So like masks were mostly more like mostly in like
a physical story.
A physical story, but more like a fictional character or like mythological, I would say. Trying to so now it makes it so the audience now clearly sees that it's not realistic. It's it's
obscene. Not obscene. It's
just magical. I don't know, just magical, not realistic. So it takes you away from. You can tell now it's actual theater, not real life. So actually, in one of our pictures in our slides, you see a performer with a horse, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, on stage.
Mm-hmm. So then, getting into anti-mask. So I feel like Joe knows more, to be honest, more about that.
But
I feel like
developed from
so it was like a little. I think more of it's like a little sketch. It was like a little different story, like a little side story. Actually, you know how if you go to theaters now, to like movie theaters, there's like a little
the previews before
previews, but it's not even like a preview.
Trailer. It's like the information.
No, not even. It's like So I went to go see some. I forgot what movie it was, but there was a little short video of that had nothing to do with the whole movie. It was actually some animation of like this Asian family, and her kid leaves, and it's like this doll comes to life, and she thinks it's this kid, and the doll grows up to be, exactly like the kid and leaves. And before the doll leaves out the door, she grabs it and eats it. Like, see, so it has nothing to do with it, but
it does have something to do with it. The things like masks are like. It's funny. It's like it's in the name. It's like anti-mask. Like when I was doing my research on
I honestly thought it was the complete opposite. Anti.
It kind of is. It's like kind of is in a situation in a way. It's like it's almost it's like it's like it's not like this, but from an actor, the way I can describe it, it's like if you're having an objective, like if we're in a room right now, if my objective is to get to the door and then you're in the way and let's say you're sleeping in front of the door, that's an obstacle.
Right.
They don't necessarily present an obstacle, they present like it's more of a grotesque dance, and it's performed like
Like
I've
it's
seen
like a
multiple.
dance
Like
battle
I have
before, like,
multiple sources. I think one of them said like I've seen one where it was like, oh, they were performed in between acts or some shit of the mask. Or there's also, I think I read one where it said that they were performed at the same time.
I
It's
honestly,
like
I
my
honestly think
information on
it's
this
like
is a little
it's like a musical in a way. Instead of the singing part,
kind of without the singing.
it's
It's
the
a little bit,
dancing.
yeah. It has
Yeah.
those aspects of it, which are we see the influence on that through time. I mean, we're actually looking at. Right now, we're pointing at a little playbill from the play Machiavelli performed last year with the playbill, and it looks like a little bit of a it's the doll with the strings. Anyway, it's probably gonna probably cut that. That's just no nonsense. But anyway, I think what are we almost? I guess we can start wrapping it up. I mean, I think wrapping it up. I mean, at this time period, we'll bring into back more around the edge of what ends the Jacobean era is
the Civil War,
that which is also is the leaving of James the First from royalty, and
Charles the
once
First.
again we look at things like religion is the cause for all this shit, and the Puritans aren't getting happy, and then they're like, oh, down with the power, down with the absolute monarch, and they put in an absolute monarch.
Do you think if there wasn't a division between our religions, between the Catholics and the Protestants, that maybe
that history
our history would be a lot the Pilgrims never came
I don't know
to
about
the US.
The Pilgrims. I mean, maybe they're
no, just the Pilgrims, because they came from from England,
Pilgrims?
and from Spain, to be honest. Well, okay, maybe not the Pilgrims, but
no, I'm talking about the founding of the country. Yeah, England, America still would have been founded, but as far as like the Pilgrims and the Mayflower,
okay, but like I'm talking about like coming all the way
what
up
you
here
mean?
to
You
like
mean?
Boston and
You
Long
mean?
Island.
Which is the exclusion from the Puritans from the English Empire? They left.
Exactly. That's what I
And this has nothing to do with the Jacobean era, but this is just another fun fact, I guess, if you want to know.
But
it's also related to it. The Puritans at one point, they were once after the English Civil War, we had a period in time where there was no monarchy in England, and this actually didn't go over well with the English citizens. They wanted it back, and somehow or another, because James' family fled to, I think it was France, or the Deutschlands, where the Queen was from. I think they hid out in there.
Denver.
Denmark.
Denmark. I said Denver.
Honestly, we might be wrong. Even so, they fled to somewhere else in Europe, and then eventually they come back, and the family takes back control. And then the Puritans start getting mad because they can't practice what they want to do. They can't live the way they want, which is pure and unfun. I'm sorry, I would never want to live it. And then that's when they came to America. But honestly, do I think it would have had an impact? I think it would have. I think everything. It's like a butterfly effect. You change one small thing in history, and it affects everything else. With, I guess, on that kind of note,
we'll just wrap it up.
Leave it there. I mean, with the English Civil War, All
right, but thank you so much for your attention. You probably didn't even understand anything we said. But
yes, and we'll hopefully type it into Google Translate if you just put it under the Guinea section of that, and the Long Island Hicksville accent. You might be able to get what we said off of this. So thank you, and have a nice night.
Yep, and peace.